I am back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast talking New York Knicks basketball with the Knicks beat report for the Athletic, Mike Vorkunov, rocking the Athletic hat here on the Zoom call. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'd say it's a lot of fun to talk to you. I read your coverage all the time on the Athletic. There's a lot of good stuff on the Knicks.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem. I got to say, it's definitely been an interesting offseason for the Knicks with the whole change of the front office, the Leon Rose regime, Tom Thibodeau being hired. What do you think of those two choices the Knicks made to sort of rebuild the franchise?
The Leon Rose thing, the hire is kind of a blank slate. I don't really know what to make of it. He has no history as an executive, right? I don't know if he'll be good, if he'll be bad. I just don't know. And I don't know if that sounds like a cop out or not, but there's nothing to go off. And it's not as if hiring an agent is kind of this fix all for the teams that have done it, because that's a mixed record in the past too. And I guess we'll see in time, just kind of we still don't really know what his plan is for the organization either. He's pretty much been, he's been ducking the media since he's gotten hired. I think he's spoken, I want to say once in the 9 months since he got the job. As for Thibodeau, I think it'll be good. He's a really good coach. I think there's some, I don't want to call them problems, but there have been issues in his career. And as a coach, and more so as an executive, but he doesn't have to be an executive with the Knicks. He's just a coach. And, especially for this year, when the team is young, the team is not expected to be very good. He'll have them competitive on a night to night basis. Like, that doesn't mean they'll be good, but it means that they should be in close games and they should, get better. And, when you need someone to develop the young talent that the Knicks have, I think that, that should suit him well, and the staff that they've put together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like people pan that Thibodeau hire as, he's not the way the NBA is going. He's a bit of a dinosaur. I do think that was a good fit, because this is a team that doesn't really hire like proven coaches. I feel like he's a guy who gives you a nice track record.
Yeah, I agree. He's got, he's the most important thing is, like, for all his faults as a coach, and you can look through his time in Minnesota and Chicago and parse those. I think everyone kind of agrees he's a good coach. And it helps to have a good coach. And I think it helps to have someone who can teach, who can motivate, and especially for a young team, just teach them about the NBA, basically. I think those things are undervalued.
Yeah, I definitely think they are. And I do like what they did this offseason. Remember last year, they struck out on Durant and Irving. Then they signed just 19 power forwards to try and use up all the cap space. This year, I feel like they've made a better job just utilizing their assets, getting guys to sort of fit the roster better. What do you make of their offseason?
I think it wasn't like impressive. I also don't think it was disastrous. It does seem, they got players who fit a little more than last offseason, right? They didn't sign 4 power forwards this time. I like Alec Burks. I think he should help. He should help the spacing. He gives them a shooter, a scorer, a guy who can provide some offensive pop compared to the guys that they signed last offseason. Austin Rivers should help once he gets healthy. At least kind of provide like competent backcourt play, really is the best way I would put it. And, if they want to, they can kind of put lineups out there that space the floor a little bit more around RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson than they could last season. It's marginal additions. I don't think it's anything huge, but at least it's a marginal improvement instead of getting worse, right? Really, They still need to get better shooters. They need to get more shooters. They need to get more talent, all those types of things. But they maintain their cap space. They still have 18 million or so remaining, and they added a few draft picks. And so I would say, on the net, it was a net positive offseason, but I'm not going to say like it was this great offseason or anything. But then again, a quiet competency is a good thing for the Knicks.
Yeah, there's been a long time he's been quietly competent, even just competent in general. But I'm talking about working off the Athletic here. And you mentioned Mitchell Robinson. One thing that caught my eye in the preseason game that came the other day was that he was in the starting line to put Nerlens Noel in at the 5 instead of him. Do you think that's something we should watch Mitchell Robinson and see if he has to fight for his playing time again?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think not just like, does he have to fight for his playing time? Is he worthy of being a starting player? He didn't start as a rookie. He didn't start as a second-year player. And if he doesn't start as a third-year player, you have to wonder what's going on there. It can't just be this grand conspiracy against him. And, especially the Knicks, they could decide to have him hit restricted free agency this upcoming offseason, 2021. If not, he'll definitely hit unrestricted free agency in 2022. So they have to see what they got, and Mitchell Robinson has to, progress too as a player, especially offensively. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there at the center spot. And, if Nerlens Noel starts the season as a Knicks starter at center, that would be eye raising, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I think it would be too. And you mentioned RJ Barrett too. And we heard all last year about how, like, oh, he'll be better in the NBA if he has spacing around. They did a little better in that regard. But how much of a big difference do you think like Tom Thibodeau and what they're doing year 2 could have on RJ's season?
I think a lot. I mean, part of it because help is just, the fact that he's in a second season. There's natural growth there, right? When rookies transition to their second year, they're supposed to get better. The league, you've gotten bigger, stronger, smarter, all those types of things. And if Tom Thibodeau, for all his track record as like kind of defensive coach, has put together some pretty good offenses over the course of his career. He doesn't have like a clear cut philosophy. He's not playing Nelly ball. He's not Mike D'Antoni or something like that. But like they've put together some pretty good offenses. His teams have, and so I think he'll probably find a way to put RJ Barrett in good spots and to profit offensively off of them.
Yeah, I think obviously you mentioned the offseason in terms of veterans was quiet, but they made the 2 big picks in the first round, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly out of Kentucky. And what kind of roles do you think those 2 could get in year 1? Do you think we'll see a lot of both guys?
I think we'll see a lot of Obi Toppin. He's number 8 pick. He's 22. He comes in as the college player of the year. If he's not playing a lot, something's gone wrong. I don't know how much we'll see of Emmanuel Quickly. Part of it is that, the Knicks are thin in the backcourt on like talent, but they have a lot of quantity. So it's just, can he beat those players out for minutes? And obviously the 25th overall pick is not like usually where you come in and find a contributor right away. So I don't know what the expectations should be high for Quickly, but I think for Toppin, I know a lot of places I've seen, he's kind of like the presumptive rookie of the year favorite. I don't know how that'll work out because he's got Julius Randle in front of him on the depth chart, but that might work itself out around the trade deadline or the course of the season or something like that. So yeah, I expect to see a lot of Toppin.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that front court rotation. I know that it's a little thinner now because they got rid of some guys. They still have Randall. They still have Noel. They have Robinson, Toppin, or talk that Knox could be a small ball 4. Like, how do you think that rotation sorts itself out in terms of the front court?
They don't have that many guys. They have essentially 4 guys at the power forward and center spot, and just the very bigs in the front court. And I think we've seen already Tom Thibodeau experimenting with playing Obi Toppin and Julius Randle together at power forward and center. So there's a willingness to play small, and I think you can probably make that work and split 96 minutes between those guys, those 4 guys, and make sure that everyone gets their allotted time, and also find ways to get some offensive spark and sometimes play defensive lineups. Especially, yeah. And also, the big backdrop of this is this whole season is playing out in a pandemic. We've seen from baseball, we've seen from football, inevitably something will happen. There will be, unfortunately, COVID will probably hit the Knicks at some point, and they'll have to deal with depth issues, and they'll have to find ways to cover up for players that they're missing. And so I think having more guys is better this season than having less.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I do think also in terms of their roster, there's also that whole category of like the high lottery picks who haven't lived up to expectations with like Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, and Dennis Smith Jr. Like it's sort of the last gasp for all 3 guys where you could see like if they have bad years, the Knicks can move off from all of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the Knicks still have to pick up the 4th-year option on Kevin Knox. I think the deadline is coming up in the next few weeks, and Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. are set to be free agents this offseason as their rookie contracts run out. I don't think that either one of them have kind of, have made the Knicks like assure that they should be a part of their future. And Ntilikina especially was drafted by Phil Jackson, played through the Steve Mills era, is now under Leon Rose, who used to be his agent. So like there's been a lot of changeover for him over his career, and he's several administrations removed now from the people who drafted him. So yeah, it's a proving ground type of season for those guys.
It doesn't feel like this is one of those things they have to get better on. I think I read somewhere, I don't know if it was one of your pieces or not, but I think they haven't been able to sign like a 1st-round pick to a 2nd contract since Charlie Ward, which seems like way too long. And I think they got to get better at that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought Kristaps Porzingis was going to be that guy, and then now he's in Dallas. Yeah, part of it is just bad drafting, bad management, all those types of things. And I don't know what else to say. I think that stat kind of like just talks for itself. And like the key to any good franchise usually is just being able to draft and develop and keep your good young players.
Yeah, it's certainly true. And obviously, even though they've gotten slightly better, like I think most of us will agree that the playoffs are not realistic for the Knicks. So, like, what would you say to a Knicks fan right now? Like, if this happens this year, this is a successful season for them.
I think it's just like if you see growth and improvement from the main three guys, which is from Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, and Mitchell Robinson. You know, like those are the kind of foundational pieces for the franchise at the moment. And that more than anything else, just their improvement is what's so vital to the Knicks' growth as a franchise. Just knowing, you know, like, okay, these guys are young, they're good, we have them under control for a few years, and we can go forward with them. And I guess alternatively, if at least they know that one of those guys is not going to be a part of the future, that's something too.
Yeah, it's sort of like what happened with like the Jets a little bit also, like where it's like, oh, like we need to find out if Sam Darnold's the quarterback. If you at least find out, okay, maybe Mitchell Robinson isn't what we thought he is, that's a little, at least it's something.
Right, exactly. You know, I think Seth Partnow, who works for us and is like a basketball genius, explained in one of these days in the conversation that we had about the Knicks, you know, like essentially this season is about figuring out who you should go with and also about which players disqualify themselves about being a part of your future.
Yeah, we've also seen them past, like I say, it feels like every other offseason, they're sort of saving the cap room, trying to get the big free agents. They don't come, then they sort of recycle again. Do you think we're going to end up heading towards the same direction next summer? Or you think is going to be hey, let's do with the Brooklyn Nets and let's build the core up first and then make it easier to sell these guys saying, hey, like superstar X, you can come here, turn a 40-win team to a 50-win team as opposed to going, I have a 17-win team. I'm going to ask you to make it a 50-win team. I think that's sort of more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think like at some point you just got to be a good competitive franchise who's, you know, shows that you can win games and develop players and all those things. And then that'll make you attractive to a star player more so than just being New York, right? Like we've seen being New York doesn't work. Good players want to go to good teams where they're not doing, you know, a large haul to make the teams even better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to thank you, Mike, for taking all the time today for hopping on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people follow you on Twitter and subscribe to The Athletic and keep up all your coverage?
theathletic.com/Knicks is a good place to start. If you haven't subscribed to The Athletic yet, now's a pretty good time to start. It's going to be an interesting 2020-21 season. And, you know, we cover every NBA team and pretty much like every North American sport and some English soccer and European soccer, if you're into that, which I am. And if you're subscribed already, thank you. And I'm at, you know, Mike Vorkunov on Twitter. And I guess follow me there. If not, I get it. There's no reason to go to Twitter if you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm already an Athletic subscriber. I read your stuff every day when it comes out at the Knicks. And it's a good read. I recommend it to everybody. Mike, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.